Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beansworthy Entertainment. This video, we're going to be going over the noon games in Week 11 of the 2023 NFL season. I'm just a guy behind a camera saying what I think is going to happen based off what I've seen this season and also the statistics that we are about to go over. Took a little bit extra time on the sheets on this one. Have a whole entire different metric that I'm working on to try and be a little bit better and have a little bit more accurate reading on where teams really necessarily stand. Because of right now, I've just got the base stats that are ranked. But now that we've got a plenty enough sample size in the NFL, I could start actually cross-referencing the offensive rankings with all the games and kind of get more of a better clue. But it's a little complicated, and I'll be working on that throughout this next week. I just was able to get the win percentages of the opposing teams. But I hope that you guys like this video. With that being said, if you do, hit the like button. Check out the other videos on the channel. I've got live streams of Madden, 2K, World of Warcraft, Fortnite, League of Legends, just about anything. And if there's something that I don't have content on, you can go ahead and leave a suggestion in the comments. I'll definitely check that out and everything. But if you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe button, become part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. And if you already are part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family, thank you. I love and appreciate all of the support. Be kind and respectful to others, and most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You are the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. All right, let's go ahead, and we've got 8 noon games to go over. We got this already pulled up. Oh, that doesn't need to be full screen, though. All right, there we go. And again, we don't have to take away the camera. I'm going to readjust real quick. Oh, while we get into this. The first game that we got for the noon games, we've got the Chicago Bears that are going to Detroit to take on the Lions. And first, just knowing these two teams and how the season has gone for these two teams, it is going to be interesting. I'm definitely on the Lions side of things, but I can see certain places that the Bears can figure out a way to win. But let's go ahead and get into the numbers. The Bears, they are number 28th on NFL.com's power ranking list with a 3-7 record. They are 1-4 on the road and last in the NFC North. The Lions, they have a 7-2 record. They are number 4 on the NFL.com power ranking list. They are 3-1 at home and first in the NFC North. Offensive-wise, as usual, we start with the offense. The Bears, they have 322.8 total yards per game, 187.7 passing yards per game, and 135.1 rushing yards per game. They have scored 22 touchdowns this year, 14 receiving and 8 rushing. The offensive line has allowed 30 sacks, which is 27th in the league, and 20.4 points per game for the offense, and 82.1 QBR for between Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent. Justin Fields is back, though. Nowhere on the injury report, so he should be back and going. The Bears on offense, for turnovers, they have 12 interceptions and 6 fumbles. Their stat leaders, we got Justin Fields, D'Onta Foreman, and DJ Moore. Fields has 100 completions on 162 attempts, 1,201 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. D'Onta Foreman has 86 carries, 367 yards, and 3 touchdowns. DJ Moore has 52 catches, 793 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That will be all of the stats that we have for the Bears offense. Now let's go over to the Lions side. And again, I have this up here so all of you guys can go ahead and pause it if you need to, or just go ahead, take a screenshot and whatnot. Hopefully some of these videos are helping people. If not, I just hope that you, I just hope that you guys are having fun watching the videos. But moving on, let's get to the Lions offense. They have 406.4 total yards per game, 267.4 passing yards per game, and 139 rushing yards per game. So they're doing really good yardage-wise. They have scored 28 touchdowns this year, 14 receiving, 14 rushing. The offensive line has only allowed 16 sacks. That is tied for 6th in the league. And they have 26.8 points per game and 99.1 overall for a quarterback rating for Jared Goff this year. Their stat leaders on offense, again, Jared Goff, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff has 223 completions on 326 attempts, 2,507 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. David Montgomery has 106 carries, 501 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown has 65 catches, 821 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Turnover-wise for the Lions offense, they have 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles, so kind of about league average around there. A little bit lower than league average. 10 turnovers altogether. Not too bad for the Lions. 18 turnovers altogether, though, for the Bears. That's alarming. But we know that they've been struggling this year. And I was talking about yardage. The only thing that the Bears are good at is running the ball. They're 5th in the league when it comes to rushing yards per game, but 24th for passing yards per game and 20th overall. The Lions, they're 4th for both passing and rushing and 2nd overall. The league's just a little weird when it comes to rankings this year. 4th in the league for rushing touchdowns. So between the two of these, I'm going to give the Lions the benefit. Not really necessarily the benefit. It's obvious here. The Lions have the better offense than the Bears do. Let's leave it at that. Going on to the defense, the Bears, they allow 324.2 total yards per game, 248.2 passing yards per game, and 76 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 24 touchdowns this year, 20 receiving and 4 rushing. They have 25.5 points per game allowed, 99.7 quarterback rating allowed, and only 13 sacks, which is worst in the league. On defense, they have 6 interceptions and 3 fumbles for their turnovers. One of those interceptions has been returned for a touchdown, but 9 turnovers on defense, especially when you got 18 turnovers on offense, is just not going to cut it. Their turnover differential is -9. Just a lot of things that aren't going right for the Bears this season, and I completely blame it on the front office and coaching. Seeing how they treated Justin Fields at the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden switching back to his old game plan. There's just a bunch of factors in there, but we have seen some positive notes in that in the Bears team that can be built upon. They did go and get Montez Sweat, offered him a contract. So we'll go ahead and see how down the stretch this team unfolds. Okay. With that, let's go on to the Lions defense. In the Lions defense, they allow 310.7 total yards per game, 231.6 passing yards per game, and 79.1 rushing yards per game. So both of these defenses are not that good at defending the pass, but really good at defending the run. The Lions have allowed 22 touchdowns, 15 receiving, and 7 rushing. They allow 22.6 points per game, and 88.3 quarterback rating is allowed per game. Or overall as an average, per se. I mean, points per game and everything is average. Talking to myself. Their defense has got, the Lions defense has 21 sacks, which is tied for 21st in the league. Their turnovers, they got 8 interceptions and 3 fumbles. So one of those got returned for a pick 6. So a little bit of the same thing. There's a couple more interceptions on the Lions side, but other than that, these defenses are damn near identical. Other than I see the quarterback rating allowed is different, but there's no like good other than the rushing defense is something that you can be proud of out of these two teams. And I guess overall the Lions are 9th in yards per game, by being 21st in points per game allowed. Luckily enough that they only had 10 turnovers on offense, so the 11 turnovers on defense makes them positive +1 for a turnover differential. Going to the kickers, we got the Bears kicker who's 15 for 16 for field goals, 19 for 20 on extra points. He has 6.4 points per game from his leg. The Lions, their kicker is 13 for 15 on field goals and a perfect 28 for 28 on his extra points. He has 7.4 points per game this year. And then down here is just as usual, and just kind of looks a little bit different, I would say. I mean, those that have watched the Thursday video already noticed it. But here, right above the schedules, that's where I have gone through. I made a spreadsheet and put the formulas in so I can calculate out what their... Basically, what I'm trying to aim at is what the strength of schedule has been for these teams. Now, you look at these two teams, and for 42 for 43, 41 for 43, so only one win off of being almost identical for the opponents that these two teams have been matched up against. And you can go ahead and look. We're getting to the point that there's a lot of teams, but I'm always going to keep this up here, and you can go ahead and pause. Bears lost to the Chiefs. The Lions beat the Chiefs, but that was also week 1 when they didn't have Chris Jones or Travis Kelce. So it was questionable. Other than that, any other spectacular wins that we can see here? Not necessarily. Falcons, Packers, Panthers, Buccaneers, Raiders, Chargers. I'm not going to call those spectacular wins at all. And then they actually played the Ravens, which is a good team, arguably one of the best defenses in the league, and they could not get their offense going. A lot of people were calling the Lions frauds, and I don't think that was the case at all. I think it was just they got away with an easy game to start off the year. Or not necessarily an easy game. The Chiefs are never an easy game. But the circumstances with the injuries that the Chiefs had definitely gave the Lions the advantage in that. But then they went and they lost to the Seahawks, who, in my opinion, could be one of the teams that come out of the NFC. to be a contender for the Super Bowl, but all these other games, they lost to the Seahawks, they lost to the Ravens, and then literally 500 and below teams for the rest of the year. And just with that, we can go back up, and I know that both these teams are good at the run and good at defending the run. I got friends that are Bears fans, and I've told them that I could see a situation where the Bears come away with this. Now, when I actually finally make my prediction, I'm going to go with the Lions. So it's a little bit misleading, but I mean, at the same time, what I'm trying to get at is anything can happen. And I've been doing this entire season where we're a couple of games into the second half of the season. And I've been making predictions, and some of these predictions have been wrong. So I've just got to take every single variable into account. That's why when someone reached out to me and brought the question of, are you taking these stats and these rankings into account for the strength of schedule, which I have. I never had the actual opponent record metric up there, and now I can just kind of leave that up there for people to go ahead and see, and you can go ahead and look at the games that played. The Bears, they've lost a lot of games, and the only wins that they've had are two teams that are 500 and below. Raiders 500, Commanders and Panthers below. Panthers way below 500. Panthers might have the worst record in the league when we come down to the end of the year. So anything's possible. But with this one, I am going to go with the Lions. Let's go over these injuries too. Khalil Herbert, he's still on IR. Tremaine Edmonds, Kari Blasingame, Deontay Foreman, and Jack Sanborn are all questionable. Over on the Lions side, CJ Gardner-Johnson is still on IR. Khalif Raymond, Frank Ragnow, Ifeatao Melifonwu, and Jonah Jackson are all questionable. So we got a couple of linemen that are going to be, we got two linemen that are going to be out on the Lions. But I don't see that being technically an issue. Maybe the Bears can make that an issue for them. It's kind of difficult with this metric, especially with Montez Sweat being in there now. If Montez Sweat can get in there and disrupt, because those sacks allowed tied for 6th in the league. That's with a full healthy team. And Ragnow's a key piece. Jonah Jackson, he's not any slouch. But could be a rough day for Jared Goff out there. He's experienced though, so he knows how to deal with it, and I feel like the Lions will prevail. ESPN has the Lions favored by a lot. Vegas has the Lions favored by 8 points. The over-under is at 47.5. If you're ever wondering which one to look for, the open is what it started at during the week. The line is where it currently is at now. Just slowly starting to learn more of that. But 47.5 is the over-under, and the Lions are favored by 8 points. So, taking those 8 points and the points per game is kind of what sticks out to me. I'm going to go with the under, and I'm going to give the Lions 30 and the Bears 16. Go ahead and lock that in. 30-16, the Lions win at home against the Bears. Let's go ahead and move on and get to the second game here. And I want to make sure that we're all good over here. And yep, there we go. So you guys can see everything. In this second game, we have the Los Angeles Chargers that are ranked number 18th on the NFL.com Power Rankings list, going to face the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau. The Packers are number 26 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list. Now the Chargers have a 4-5 record and are 2-2 on the road. They are third in the AFC West. The Packers have a 3-6 record. They are 2-2 at home and third in the NFC North. Both of these teams going through some troubles. The Packers are just underwhelming this year. Chargers, I feel like that might just be that their defense is not doing that good against the pass. Just leading to other problems in the game, and just got to take everything into accountability for it. If the offense is spending a lot of time on the field, it's going to be difficult. But let's go into the numbers. The Chargers, they have... Oh my God. Sorry about that, guys. The Chargers have 349.9 total yards per game, 249.1 passing yards per game, and 100.8 rushing yards per game. They have scored 27 touchdowns, 18 receiving, and 9 rushing. The offensive line has only allowed 20 sacks, so that's tied for 11th in the league. They have a 101.1 quarterback rating and 26.6 points per game. So that 4-5 record, especially with those numbers that this offense is producing, is just tragic. It's tough to watch the game. I feel bad for Justin Herbert. It's not going well on the defensive side of the ball for the Chargers this year. But going forward, on the offense, the Chargers for turnovers have 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles. The stat leaders on the offense for the Chargers are Justin Herbert, Joshua Kelly, and Keenan Allen. Herbert, he's got 216 completions on 322 attempts, 2,349 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Joshua Kelly has 79 carries, 339 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Keenan Allen has 73 catches, 895 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Just looks like it's maxing out over there. Oh, it is maxing out now. What in the world is going on? It's maxing out now. I don't know. Hopefully it sounds good on your guys' end when I finally get this done. So let's go over to the Packers side of the ball. And the Packers, they have 311 total yards per game, 208.9 passing yards per game, and 102.1 rushing yards per game. They have 19 touchdowns, 14 receiving, and 5 rushing. The offensive line has only allowed 19 sacks, but they've only got an 80.8 quarterback rating and 19.9 points per game. Just a little underwhelming. I thought Jordan Love, I thought was going to be a better quarterback. Not saying that he's terrible, but he has been throwing a lot of interceptions. But turnovers, speaking of that, turnover-wise for the offense, Jordan Love has thrown 10 interceptions, and the offense has 2 fumbles. The stat leaders, we have Jordan Love, A.J. Dillon, and Jaden Reed. Love has 176 completions on 300 attempts, 2,009 yards, 14 touchdowns, and again, those 10 interceptions. A.J. Dillon, he has 103 carries, 376 yards and 1 touchdown. Jayden Reed, he has 28 catches, 417 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Like, your top receiver only has 28 catches, 417 yards. That is half the yardage, a third of the receptions that Keenan Allen has. 4 touchdowns for Jayden Reed, so give him credit for that. But do we have something going on with the play calling, or is it just a little bit of a skill issue for Jordan Love? Again, go ahead and let me know what you think in the comments. Going over to the defensive side of the ball, the the Chargers, they allow 393.2 total yards per game, 291.2 passing yards per game, and 102 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 25 touchdowns this year, 14 receiving and 11 rushing. They've allowed 23.9 points per game, and a 99 quarterback rating has been allowed by the other quarterbacks this year. They've got 31 sacks though, so that's tied for third in the league. They're getting to the other quarterback, but it's not really showing for anything, and so they are worse in the league when it comes to passing yards per game, and that makes them 31st in the league overall. Like, their rushing yards per game don't even hold the rest of the defense up because of the fact that they're giving up so much yardage in the passing game. Turnover-wise, they got 6 interceptions and 9 fumbles. So they got a +8 turnover differential, but that's also because they've got probably the league best 7 turnovers on offense. I don't know any other team that has a lower number than that. If they do, it's kind of failing me right now to remember. But thank God their offense isn't turning. Their offense is doing its job. The defense needs to figure it out. The secondary needs to start putting in work and fixing that. And you can see the way that things are shaping out in the NFL right now. You could see the Chargers possibly make a statement and fight for a playoff position. They're only at 4-5. The Packers, on defense, they allow 320.6 total yards per game, 187.6 passing yards, and 133 rushing yards per game. They only have allowed 17 touchdowns this year, 8 receiving and 9 rushing. That is 11th in the league with 20.2 points per game and 13th in the league with 85.7 quarterback rating allowed. They're tied for 21st in the league with only 21 sacks, though. And turnover-wise, it's a little underwhelming as well. 5 interceptions and 3 fumbles. One of those interceptions has been returned for a touchdown, though. So getting a little bit of points from their defense. At least they got that going for them. But I mean, I'm still gonna pick. I'd pick the Packers defense if I was gonna pick a defense between these two. Honestly, if they could just flip flop, maybe they could make one whole good team. But Packers, they've got a -4 turnover differential because of all those interceptions. Special teams wise, the Chargers have 1 punt return for a touchdown. 14 for 15 on field goals and perfect 27 for 27 on extra points. Makes 7.7 points per game from their kicker. The Packers, they got 13 for 15 on field goals and 16 for 17 on extra points. Only 6.1 points per game from their kicker. So like a couple of field goals a game. It's a little. There's only that so much fluctuation in that as it goes throughout the league. But going down here, let's go ahead and get this in here. We've got the schedule where you see the Chargers have had a very tough schedule. Their opponent's record is one of the highest that you see in the league. 47 wins and 37 losses, a 556% win percentage. They've only beat the Vikings, Raiders, Bears, and Jets. They had to take on the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Lions. So it's been a pretty tough road for the Chargers. Surprised that they've actually stuck in it. A couple of those wins, though, a couple of those tough teams, flipping it around. Chargers got a winning record. Packers, their opponents are an even 500. Really impressive that the Packers beat the Saints in that one late comeback victory. Took care of business against the Rams, but the win against the Bears isn't spectacular in my eyes. The wet noodle fight. But yeah, there's that for you guys. So yeah, 4-5 record with that. It doesn't surprise me looking at it with how some of these teams have ended up. But 2-point loss to the Dolphins, 3-point loss to the Cowboys, 3-point loss to the Lions last week. They're close and they're in these games. Again, if that defense can tighten up and figure out a way to stop the passing game and slow that down, I think that the Chargers are a team to be reckoned with. But until they fix their defense, they are just another team that's going to get rolled over. Injury-wise, in this matchup, the Chargers, we got Chris Rumph on IR still. JT Woods is NFI. Why can't I remember what that means? Oh, duh, that's non-football injury related. So I wonder what happened to JT Woods. Huh. Donald Parham Jr., Gerald Everett, and Keenan Allen are questionable, so keep an eye on those guys today. Probably going to be some game time decisions in there. The Packers, we got Jair Alexander, Rudy Ford, Quay Walker, Christian Watson, and Elgton Jenkins. All of these guys are questionable, and going over it, I didn't see anything that really caught my eye that was across these matchups that was a key injury that's going to be missing. So that's the reason why I say game time decision. Usually if it's a big injury and something that's going to be known, kind of like that week that the Browns just trying to think of the example. I can't remember which one was which, though. Oh, duh. Yeah, when Deshaun Watson was cleared for his shoulder, but he still didn't play. Kind of in those situations, it gets weird, but as far to my knowledge and everything, I will let you guys know on key injuries that will absolutely not be happening as it develops. But as far as I know, now as of now, these are the only ones that are there. And if they were ruled out, they would say out. If there was a chance that they weren't going to play, it would say doubtful. So the injury list reading questionable means that they're more than likely to play, but if something goes on in pregame warm-ups, they're going to sit for the day. Going on, we got Vegas that has the over-under at 43.5. The Chargers are favored by 3 points. ESPN has the Chargers favored by 67%. And I could see the Chargers coming in and getting a win stealing a win away from the Packers. It's just underwhelming offense, and I feel like their defense actually can handle it. A little bit of a saving grace for them, but I have been wrong before. Just trying to think of where we're going to land at for points. The 43. $43.5 is tough. Because I'm kind of like right there. Actually, I'm going to give the Chargers 27, the Packers 13. So we'll go with the under. Go with the under. All right, yeah. Just was sitting here thinking about it. And yeah, lock that in. 27-13. Chargers beat the Packers on the road. Feel like these next coming weeks, they had a very rough first half of the year, and the only team that's in their division that was tough that they lost to is the Chiefs. So they'll have to see the Chiefs again. They might lose again in that one, but other than that, Chargers I feel like are a good team and just need to work on the defense a little bit. Let's get on to the next game. I'm running at about like 15 to 20 minutes per game. This next one, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders that are going to Miami to take on the Dolphins. And the Raiders, they are number 21 on the power rankings list, the NFL.com power rankings list. With a 5-5 record, they are 1-4 on the road and second in the AFC West. The Dolphins, they are number 6 on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 6-3 record. They are 4-0 at home, undefeated, and first in the AFC East. Top offense of the year this year goes to the Miami Dolphins. But as I actually looked at it and everything, they have been playing really easy teams. So when they've had when they've met good defenses, they've struggled. But we'll get into that as we go along. The Raiders on offense, they have 275.4 total yards per game, 192.1 passing yards per game, and 83.3 rushing yards per game. Only 16 touchdowns scored from them, 9 receiving and 7 rushing. 25 sacks have been allowed. That is 22nd in the league. 73.9 for a QBR, which is 31st in the league. And they only have 17.2 points per game, which is 27th in the league. Turnover-wise, they have 14 interceptions and 4 fumbles. And their stat leaders, since Jimmy G's still out, we have Aiden O'Connell, Josh Jacobs, and Devontae Adams. Aiden O'Connell has 66 completions on 104 attempts, 675 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Josh Jacobs has 186 carries, 622 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Davante Adams has 57 catches, 659 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Moving on, because this is quick. The Dolphins are easily the better one out of these two. And the Las Vegas Raiders have not been doing good. That is a dumpster fire of an organization. And I feel for the players that are left there, Davante Adams, good Lord, I feel so bad for you because you wanted to go back to there and you got bamboozled. And it honestly makes me want to cry. But moving on, we'll get to the Dolphins. Let's get to the Dolphins offense, and they have a league best 435.3 total yards per game, 287.4 passing yards per game, and 147.9 rushing yards per game. They did have the best. They are tied for second in rushing yards per game. They did have the best just up until last week when the Ravens took it over. They have scored 37 touchdowns this year, 20 receiving, and 17 rushing. Both of those are second in the league. They have allowed 15 sacks, which is third in the league, and have a 106.5 quarterback rating for Tua, which is second in the league. And the league's best points per game, which is 31.7 right there. Turnover-wise, they have 8 interceptions and 5 fumbles on offense. Tua Tagovailoa, Raheem Mostert, and Tyreek Hill are the stat leaders. Tua has 214 completions on 308 attempts, 2,609 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He's doing amazing this year. Mostert has 109 carries, 605 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Tyreek has 69 catches, 1,706 yards, or 1,076 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I wish it was in the 700, so we'd be closer to that record. But yeah, just like I said before, hands down, Dolphins are the best defense out of these two. Raiders are just not doing well. Going over to the defensive side of the ball, we have the Raiders that allow 333.4 total yards per game, 198.7 passing yards per game, and 135.6 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 21 touchdowns this year, 11 receiving, and 10 rushing. They've only allowed 20.5 points per game, which is 13th in the league. 26, or not 26. That I just messed up on that. It's 76 QBR allowed, 13th in the league. Or it's 20. No. 26 sacks and 85.6. I flip-flopped those two around. 85.6 QBR allowed, 13th in the league, and 26 sacks, which is 12th in the league. Turnover-wise, the Raiders have 9 interceptions and 2 fumbles, 1 pick six, and 1 safety. Their turnover differential, though, is -7 because of all those interceptions on offense. Aiden's only thrown 3 of them, so 11 of them came from Jimmy. That's crazy. 11 interceptions, and he didn't even play half of the year. It's like Dak Prescott numbers. Oof. Going over to the Dolphins defense, they allow 322.4 total yards per game, 216.2 passing yards per game, and 106.2 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 23 touchdowns this year, 14 receiving and 9 rushing. They allow 25 points per game, which is 26th in the league. 99.6 quarterback rating is allowed, 29th in the league. But they have 29 sacks, which is 9th in the league. Turnover-wise, they're lacking a little bit on defense with the turnovers. They have 4 interceptions and 5 fumbles. One of those interceptions has been returned for a touchdown. But I'll still go with the Dolphins defense, because I hold yards. I hold yards over points weirdly for some reason. Also, the Miami Dolphins have a -4 turnover differential with that, since there is those 8 interceptions. Yep. We can go down to the opponent records, and both these teams have faced easy teams. The Raiders have only played one team above 500. That's the Lions. Dolphins played the Eagles and the Chiefs and lost to both of them. Even lost to the Bills, which is arguably a train wreck. The only thing saving face is that they're actually only one game out due to the fact that the Dolphins are 6-3. Some of these divisions get wild, and that's why also I say it's any man's game, and at this point, there's only a few teams that are completely out of the playoff race in my mind. And do we remember when the Dolphins put up 70 points on the Broncos? Like that was something special. I mean, it was special, but I feel like it got blown up way more out of proportion, or way more than it should have been. Let's get going and let's get to the kickers. The Raiders, their kicker 17 for 20 on field goals. 15 for 15 on extra points. He has 6.6 points per game. And the Dolphins, they're 7 for 9 on field goals and 36 for 37 on extra points. So 6.3 points per game from their kicker. ESPN has this massively in the Dolphins' favor, and so does Vegas. The over-under is 46.5, and the Dolphins are favored by 13.5 points. Probably because it's just another media. I'd say Raiders are mid-level, but anybody that's 500 or below, the Dolphins have easily taken care of. The only teams that the Dolphins have had trouble with are those teams that are over 500. 31.7 points per game to 17.2 points per game. I feel like we're going to hit these averages. There might be a little bit of difficulty because of how the Raiders defense is against other quarterbacks. But I still see them succeeding. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and give the Dolphins 31 points. And I might be generous doing this, but right there at their average, 17 points. So yeah, that hits the over. We're going to go ahead and go with the over on this one. Dolphins, 31 points. Raiders, 17 points. Lock that in, 31-17. Dolphins win at home. And that's that for that game. Let's go on to our fourth noon game. And we've got the Giants that are going to Washington to take on the Commanders. And the New York Giants are number 31 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list with a 2-8 record. They are 1-5 on the road and last in the NFC East. The Commanders, they are number 23 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list with a 4-6 record, and they are 1-3 at home, also third in the NFC East. Numbers wise, let's go ahead and get into the Giants side. They have 259.2 total yards per game, 145.6 passing yards per game. Both of those stats are worst in the league. 113.6 rushing yards per game, and they have only scored 11 touchdowns this year, 7 receiving and 4 rushing. They are the league's worst offensive line with 54 sacks that have been allowed and a quarterback rating of only 75.8, which is 29th in the league. They have the league's worst points per game with only 11.8. And turnover-wise, they have 9 interceptions and 4 fumbles. It just is not good for the Giants, and they just gave that contract to Daniel Jones. The pocketbook is tight, and doesn't look like they're going to be able to get rid of Daniel Jones. At least in my opinion. But stat leaders, we got Tommy DeVito that is going to be making another start. Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller. DeVito has 31 completions on 54 attempts, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Saquon Barkley has 139 carries, 568 yards, and 1 touchdown. Darren Waller has 36 catches, 384 yards, and 1 touchdown. That'll be it for the Giants offense, and let's go over to the Commanders offense. They have 334.5 total yards per game, 246.6 passing yards per game, and 87.9 rushing yards per game. They have scored 24 touchdowns this year, 17 receiving and 7 rushing, and they are second to last in the league with 47 sacks allowed by that offensive line. But they're 14th in the league with a 91.5 quarterback rating and 17th in the league with 21.7 points per game. Turnover-wise, they have 9 interceptions and 6 fumbles, so a couple more fumbles than the Giants. Their stat leaders, you got Sam Howell, Brian Robinson Jr., and Scary Terry. Sam Howell has 264 completions on 397 attempts, 2,783 yards, 17 touchdowns on those 9 interceptions. Brian Robinson has 121 carries, 485 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Scary Terry has 51 catches, 601 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Looking at these two offenses, I mean, it's been a little bit rough because of the fact that he's been getting sacked a lot, but Sam Howell, I feel like, has still been doing better than what people thought he was going to. At least, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it makes sense to somebody. But let's go on and let's get to the defense side of the ball. The Giants, they allow 368.5 total yards per game, 237.3 passing yards per game, and 131.2 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 29 touchdowns this year, 13 receiving and 16 rushing. They have 26.6 points per game allowed and a 91.6 quarterback rating allowed. They only have 15 sacks, which is 31st in the league. And turnover-wise, they got 6 interceptions and 4 fumbles for a negative 3 turnover differential. But one of those interceptions has been returned for a touchdown. Going over to the Commanders, they allow 380.9 total yards per game, 264.3 passing yards per game, and 116.6 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 27 touchdowns this year, 21 receiving, and 6 rushing. They are 31st in the league with 27.4 points per game allowed, and 25th in the league with 98.1 quarterback rating allowed. They are tied for 13th with 26 sacks, and for turnovers, they have 6 interceptions and 7 fumbles. Both these defenses are bad. I'm not picking one. Both defenses are bad. Revert to whether or not whoever has the best offense, in my opinion. And in my opinion, Washington Commanders have the better offense. So, better team. I mean, I'm not even saying better defense. Both defenses are bad this year. The Giants' turnover differential is -3, and their kicker is only 12 for 18 on his field goals this year, but a perfect 10 for 10 on extra points. Doesn't save the fact that he only has 4.6 points per game. That's worst in the league. Over on the Commanders side, we've got 14 for 18 on field goals and 21 for 22 on extra points. So since he's actually been making those, 6.3 points per game is what they have. So it's not too bad. Probably the easiest schedule, though, by record-wise, though, goes to the Commanders. The New York Giants, they've had a pretty tough schedule with their slate that they've gotten put up with. Cowboys, 49ers, Dolphins, Bills, Cowboys again. They're in that division. Commanders are a tough offense. Again, neither defense is good. But the two times that the Commanders faced the Eagles were the only times that they faced a team that was above 500. Oh, wait, the Seahawks. They lost to the Seahawks. But yeah, every team that they face above 500, the Commanders have lost to. Which is probably because they can't stop anything on offense. Lost by 3 points to the Eagles. I remember that one was a fucking electric game. And then just a couple weeks ago, 38-31, lost by 7 points to the Eagles. Lost by 3 points to the Seahawks. That late game kick by Jake Myers last week was so clutch. Injury-wise, on the Dolphins, on the Giants, we got Xavier McKinney, Jason Pinnock, Bobby Okereke, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Tommy DeVito that are questionable. But from what I've read, Tommy DeVito is going to make the start. He is the one that's on the slate for the New York Giants. Over on the Commanders side, we got Benjamin St-Juste, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, Alex Arma, and James Smith-Williams. Those are all questionable. Curtis Samuel, I saw something a little bit about him that he might be more on the doubtful side to actually look forward to watching as that game develops. But ESPN has the Commanders favored heavily. Vegas has the over-under at 37.5, and Commanders favored by 9.5. I don't feel like the Giants get over their average, though. Maybe they do. Actually, yeah, maybe they do. Yep, and I'm gonna go with the over on this one. Actually, give the Commanders a little bit of credit here. It might not get up this high, but give the Commanders 31, give the Giants 16. Go ahead and lock that in. 31-16. Commanders win at home over the Giants. And there we are. We are 4 games, and the halfway mark has been hit. 4 games, and we are an hour in. That is the halfway mark for that. And actually go over here. I'm going to switch back over to here while we have our halfway point. Just want to tell you guys thank you for watching the video. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you want to subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate that a lot. Become part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. We're not too bad over here. And I do this every single week where I break down some football games. I also stream during the week, some during the morning, afternoon times and everything. But you could go over to the channel and you could see what's going on. I got stuff for my events that I run for my business, and my Discord. Just a whole bunch of stuff that you can go ahead and dive into once becoming a member. And I mean, it's a little bit different because I'm not actually partnered. That's a different type of membership, but I'm talking about it once you become part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. Most of the people are going to understand. Sorry for being confusing to a lot of people. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to take a second to stop and say that. And also, thank you guys for watching the video. Thank you guys for supporting me. Let's go ahead and continue on with our breakdowns. And in this game, we have the Dallas Cowboys going to Carolina to take on the Panthers. And we thought that the Giants was a bloodbath. I feel like this one might get worse. The Dallas Cowboys, they are ranked number 7 on the NFL.com power rankings list. They have a 6-3 record. They're 2-3 on the road and second in the NFC East. The Carolina Panthers are dead last on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 1-8 record. They are 1-3 at home and last in the NFC South. Stat-wise, the Cowboys, they have 379.1 total yards per game, 261.2 passing yards per game, and 117.9 rushing yards per game. They have scored 25 touchdowns this year, 17 receiving and 8 rushing. They have 23 sacks that they've allowed, 103 quarterback rating for Dak, and 29.9 points per game, which is second in the league. Also, Dak has the 5th quarterback ranking in the league. So, I mean, I'll give Dak props to the fact that he definitely bounced back from those interceptions last year, and he is proving to himself that he does definitely belong in that top tier discussion, top 10 discussion when that top tier of quarterbacks. He belongs in the conversation. I went on a rant about Dak, and yeah, it's here, there, but he's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen's the quarterback that I've been starting to question more as of late. But yeah, turnover-wise, the Cowboys, they've got 7 interceptions and 3 fumbles. The stat leaders have got Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, and CeeDee Lamb. Dak has 212 completions on 300 attempts, 2,415 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Tony Pollard has 135 carries and 529 yards, 2 touchdowns this year for him. CD has 68 catches, 975 yards, and 4 touchdowns. They're doing good on offense this year, and I'll give the Cowboys that. There was a little bit of a slip up with the Cardinals game, but other than that, I'll give the Cowboys credit, even though that they've had a pretty easy schedule. They've actually stuck with a couple of the tough teams that they have ended up having to face. Losses, taking L's nonetheless, but they're still fighting and they're still staying with them. And I love to see that. Panthers, their offense has 275.6 total yards per game, 185.2 passing yards per game, and 90.3 rushing yards per game. They've only scored 12 touchdowns, 10 receiving, and 2 rushing. Their offensive line has allowed 32 sacks, which is 28th in the league. They are 23rd in the league with a 78.1 quarterback rating and 29th in the league with 17 points per game. Turnover-wise, they have 7 interceptions and 4 fumbles. Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, and Adam Thielen are the stat leaders for the Panthers. Bryce Young has 182 catches on 290 attempts, 1,560 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Chuba Hubbard has 94 carries on 351 yards and 1 touchdown for him. Thielen has 68 catches, 652 yards, and 4 touchdowns. If I'm going to pick it, obviously, I'm picking the Cowboys. The Panthers, down bad. Probably the worst team that's down bad, considering the fact that they don't even have their first-round draft pick. They went and got Bryce Young. Questionable, but we're going Cowboys for the offense, and we're going Cowboys again for defense, and you'll understand why. The Cowboys allow 275.1 total yards per game and 166 passing yards per game. That is second in the league for passing yards per game. They allow 109.1 rushing yards per game, and they've allowed 20 touchdowns this year, 13 receiving and 7 rushing. They only allow 18.3 points per game, which is 4th in the league, and 80 for a quarterback rating, which is 6th in the league. They have 26 sacks, which is tied for 13th. And turnover-wise, they have 10 interceptions and 4 fumbles. That makes their turnover differential +4. They have 1 fumble recovery, 3 pick sixes, and 1 safety. The defense has been doing work over there for Dallas. On the Panthers side, they allow 308.3 total yards per game, 176.4 passing yards per game, and 131.9 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 26 touchdowns this year, 11 receiving and 15 rushing, and are 30th in the league with 26.9 points per game allowed and 91.2 quarterback rating allowed. They only have 17 sacks, which is tied for 29th, and they have only have 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles. Makes their turnover differential -4, and they also have 2 pick sixes. Yeah, I'm going with the Dallas defense. Dallas in general, way better team, and I don't even think we need the numbers, and people just know that. Special teams wise, Panthers, they have a punt return touchdown. The Cowboys, their kicker is a perfect 19 for 19 on his field goals and 26 for 27 on extra points. So he has 9.2 points per game, which, if I remember correctly, is the highest in the league from a kicker. And then over on the Panthers side, they are 16 for 19 for field goals and 13 for 14 on extra points, which is only 6.8 points per game. Which, I say that with only 6.8 points per game. That's actually pretty good. 6.8 points per game. That's just probably because I'm automatically in my head about this being the Panthers. But here we got down here the the opposing team's records. So far, like I said, Cowboys, they've had a pretty easy schedule when it comes to their opponent's record, except for they lost to the 49ers and the Eagles. That fluke loss to the Cardinals. But the Carolina Panthers, they've been going through it. They've got a gauntlet of great teams. And in my opinion, one of the toughest first half schedules that are out there. There's only a couple of them that have better opposing records than these two teams do. The only win that they got was that lucky win that they got against the Texans. Not even necessarily lucky. It was just a boring-ass game, and they ended up being the one that could be more exciting. But ESPN has the Cowboys favored heavily. Vegas does as well. The over-under is 42.5, and the Cowboys are favored by 10.5 points. So, with that being said, I'm taking the Cowboys definitely on this one. I feel like they hit their average points per game, and they make the Carolina Panthers get less points per game than what they usually get. Hmm. 42.5 for the over-under. I'll take the over. Yep, I'll take the over. Cowboys 31, Panthers 13. Go ahead and lock that in. 31-13, Panthers lose to the Cowboys at home. Cowboys win. Let's hope that one sticks. Cowboys predictions have been kind of wishy-washy this year. Oh, also here, you guys saw it before we go on to the next one. Cowboys, Peyton Hendershot, CJ Goodwin, Leighton Vander Esch, all of them on the IR. And then Panthers, we got Xavier Woods and Steven Sullivan. That is questionable. Marquise Haynes is ruled out. Ian Thomas and J.C. Horn are still on the IR. And that will be that for the Cowboys and Panthers game. Let's go on to game number 6. And we have the Tennessee Titans going to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. The Titans, they are number 25 on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 3-6 record. They are winless on the road and last in the AFC South. The Jaguars are number 8 in the NFL.com power rankings list with a 6-3 record. They are 1-3 at home and first in the AFC South. Also got to bring up another point in everything that between NFL.com, ESPN, and most of the major platforms that are out there that have records, and they show the away records and the home records, I have noticed something that happens. These platforms are classifying the international games as home games. So I had to make that realization because I was like, wait a minute, there hasn't been that many home games for this team. And then just something that I've made notice of and that I've been able to fix. So a little bit more of an accurate representation of what their true records are. And going along with my spreadsheets and formulas is another thing that I'm trying to do to get the true rankings of the teams so I can be a little bit more accurate with it. But let's get into this matchup. We got the Titans offense. They have 291.7 total yards per game, 185.2 passing yards per game, and 106.4 rushing yards per game. They have 13 touchdowns, 7 receiving, and 6 rushing. The offensive line has allowed 33 sacks, which is 29th in the league. They have a QBR of 77.5 and 17.1 points per game. Not too good for an offense over there. The Titans for turnovers, they have 8 interceptions and 2 fumbles. So other than the interceptions, that's looking a little bit good. And over the quarterbacks, the stat leader situation, I have Will Levis in here because Ryan Tannehill is back, but he is going to be serving as a backup to Will Levis. They are going to still let Will Levis start. And the stat leaders, we got for the Titans, we got Will Levis, Derrick Henry, and DeAndre Hopkins. Will Levis has sorry about that. Will Levis has 60 completions on 107 attempts, 699 yards, and 4 touchdowns on only 2 interceptions. He's been doing all right. Definitely a lot better than what Tannehill was doing. And let's see if they give Malik Willis another shot somewhere else. But Derrick Henry has 148 carries for 625 yards on 4 touchdowns. And DeAndre Hopkins has 38 catches, 591 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Moving over to the Jaguars offense, we have 328 total yards per game, 221.4 passing yards per game, and 106.6 rushing yards per game. They have scored 18 touchdowns, 9 receiving, and 9 rushing. They have allowed 24 sacks, which is tied for 21st in the league, and have a quarterback rating of 89. 21.8 points per game is middle of the road, and their quarterback rating is number 16 in the league. So a little bit of middle ground there, but I feel like the Jaguars, they were red hot. They can catch that spark again. Maybe that's just me hoping for it, but I feel like it's a possibility that this team can get back up on the horse and continue again. Devastating loss to the 49ers, but that 49ers team has been going through it themselves. So it was just an angry team that they had to go against last week. But offensively wise for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have 6 interceptions and 11 fumbles. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and Christian Kirk are the stat leaders for them. Trevor's got 202 completions on 300 attempts, 2,120 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Etienne has 160 carries, 618 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Christian Kirk has 49 catches, 624 yards, and 3 touchdowns. If I'd have to pick between the two of these, I'm going to go with the one that has a higher points per game, better quarterback rating. Yardage is just slightly better over on the Jaguars side. And a couple more touchdowns. So yeah, if I'd have to choose between these two offenses, I'm going with the Jaguars. Moving forward to the defense side, the Titans, they allow 338 total yards per game, 227.4 passing yards per game, and 110.6 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 15 touchdowns this year, 10 receiving, and 5 rushing. They've only allowed 20 points per game, which is 10th in the league. 98.6 quarterback rating is allowed, though, and they only have 24 sacks. So a little bit of ups and downs for the Tennessee Titans defense, especially their turnovers. They only have 3 interceptions and 4 fumbles. That's got to be one of the lowest in the league. On the Jaguars side, they allow 353.2 total yards per game, 266.8 passing yards per game, and 86.4 rushing yards per game. So they're good at stopping them from running the ball, and that could be very good going against Derrick Henry. We'll see how that works out. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense has allowed 20 touchdowns, 14 receiving, and 6 rushing. They are 15th in the league with 21.1 points per game allowed, 10th in the league with 84 QBR allowed, and tied for 26 with 18 sacks. They have 11 interceptions and 7 fumbles, though, to counteract for all the turnovers that they've got on offense. The Titans' turnover differential is -3. The Jaguars are +1. 2 of those interceptions have also been returned for touchdowns. Let's get down here. And Jacksonville Jaguars, arguably one of the most difficult records that they have faced this year. But the Titans, they're up there as well. Both of these teams have had very difficult schedules. Jacksonville Jaguars have prevailed against some really good teams. Unfortunately, they took losses to the Chiefs and the 49ers. Again, the 49ers was just an angry team that they were going against. And over on the Titans side, they haven't been able to take advantage of it. Their opponent's record is strong, but they've only got the 3 wins, and they got them against the Chargers, Bengals, and Falcons. So it's not surprising to see the Titans go out and get a win against those teams. And adjusted value of their defense from playing those teams. I mean, overall, the Titans have a better defense, but Jacksonville stops the run, and Tennessee might rely on Derrick Henry a lot. They do have Will Levis that's in there, though, so we will see what happens with that. The Titans kicker is 21 for 22 on field goals, a perfect 13 for 13 on extra points, which means he has 8.4 points per game this year. And the Jacksonville Jaguars kicker is 18 for 20 on field goals and a perfect 18 for 18 on extra points. He has 8 points per game. In the injuries on the Titans side, we have Andre Dillard, Sean Murphy-Bunting, and Treylon Burks that have been ruled out. Daniel Brunskill and Luke Gafford are questionable. Over on the Jaguars side, we got Jamal Agnew still on the IR. Tyson Campbell has been ruled out. Parker Washington, Zay Jones, and Roy Robertson Harris are questionable. ESPN has the Jaguars favored, and so does Vegas. The over-under is 39.5, and the Jaguars are favored by 6.5. The average points per game definitely don't hit the over. 17, well, 22 and 17, that's right at where they want it to be. So I can see where they've got that over under from. But I'm going to pick the over on this one. We're going to give the Jaguars 27. And let's go ahead and give the Titans 20. Go ahead and lock that in. 27-20. Jacksonville Jaguars win at home over the Titans. And I feel like we're going a little bit quicker now. I don't know what happened with those first couple. I mean, actually, we're about an hour and a half, so yeah, we're right on pace. And we got number 7. Only 2 more games left to go over, and that'll be it for this video, guys. This game, we got the Arizona Cardinals going to Houston to take on the Texans. The Cardinals are number 29 on NFL.com's power ranking list with a 2-8 record. They are winless on the road and last in the NFC West. The Texans, they are number 10 on NFL.com's power rankings list with a 5-4 record. They are 3-1 at home and second in the AFC South. Now the Cardinals offense, they have 295.9 total yards per game, 169.4 passing yards per game, and 126.5 rushing yards per game. They have scored 17 touchdowns this year, 8 receiving and 9 rushing. They've allowed 26 sacks, a 76.3 QBR, and 17.6 points per game. We'll see what happens with Kyler Murray being back. I'm a little indifferent, but we can see how things are going to go. Turnover-wise, the Cardinals have 8 interceptions and 5 fumbles. The stat leaders, we got Kyler Murray, James Conner, and Hollywood Brown. Kyler is 19 for 32 and 249 yards and 1 interception. James Conner has 84 carries, 437 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Hollywood Brown has 43 catches, 468 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Houston on offense has 372.6 total yards per game, so almost a whole 100 yards more than the Cardinals on offense. 274.3 passing yards per game, 98.2 rushing yards per game. So these two teams are a little different. Texans are good at throwing the ball. CJ Stroud has been doing great this year. I love to see it. Ohio State quarterback finally is prominent in the NFL, and it's so good. But anyway, they have 21 touchdowns, 16 receiving, and 5 rushing. They're tied for 9th in the league with 19 sacks allowed, 6th in the league with 102 QBR, and 24.1 points per game. Turnover-wise, again, CJ Stroud's been doing great, so he only has 2 interceptions this year, and the Texans have 6 fumbles on offense. Their stat leaders got CJ Stroud, Devin Singletary, and Nico Collins. CJ Stroud has 196 completions on 318 attempts, 2,626 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Devin Singletary has 92 carries, 359 yards, and 1 touchdown. Nico Collins has 36 catches, 631 yards, and 4 touchdowns. If I'd have to pick between the two of them, I'm going with the Texans offense. And that's based on CJ Stroud. Devin Singletary had a hell of a game last week. CJ Stroud still carried the team, though. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, the Cardinals, they allow 342.6 total yards per game, 208.4 passing yards per game, and 134.2 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 29 touchdowns this year, 15 receiving, and 14 rushing touchdowns. They have 26.3 points per game allowed, which is 28th in the league, and a 101 quarterback rating against them, which is 31st in the league. They do have 28 sacks, though, which is 10th in the league. And turnover-wise, they have 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles, one of those fumbles of which has been recovered for a touchdown. The Cardinals' turnover differential is -3. And overall, not that great. They're prominent with defending the pass, but they still let them score, though. So the yardage doesn't really hold up in that one. Going over to the Texans, and the Texans defense allows 340 total yards per game, 246.4 passing yards per game, and 93.6 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 20 touchdowns this year, 9 receiving and 11 rushing. They are tied for 16th with 21.3 points per game allowed, 24th in the league with 93.5 quarterback rating allowed, and tied for 21st with only 21 sacks. And on turnover-wise, on defense, the Texans have 6 interceptions and 6 fumbles. So since they don't have a lot of turnovers on offense, their turnover differential is +4. Special teams-wise, they do have 1 kickoff return touchdown on the Texans side. And the kicker for the Cardinals is 18 for 20 on field goals and 10 for 11 on extra points. He has 6.4 points per game this year. The Texans kicker is 22 for 23 on field goals and 17 for 17 extra points. 9.2 points per game from Fairbairn. But Fairbairn did not play last week. They picked up someone else because of the fact Fairbairn was injured. Doesn't look like he's still injured, though. They don't have him on the report at all. Going over the schedules of these two teams, how they've done this year. Cardinals that fluke win against the Cowboys, and then they got the lucky win against the Falcons. I think that was luck. I think that was luck. I don't know. Was that Kyler Murray coming back and being good? I don't know. Again, that's something else. Go ahead and let me know what you think in the comments section. But yeah, both of these teams have overall opponent records above 500. Both teams have wins against teams that are above 500. 1, 2. 2 wins for the Texans and 1 win for the Cardinals. The rest of them have all been losses or wins against teams that are under 500. It's been a little bit of a rocky road, but it's another situation where we've got defense that's not really doing their job for the quarterback on the other side of the ball. But ESPN has the Texans favored, and so does Vegas. The over-under is 47.5, and the Texans are favored by 6 points. Yeah, that over-under is... I think that I'm going to take the under on this one. Even though it's a Kyler Murray led offense, he could be back, he could be doing better, but I'm not willing to stake anything on that right now. So I feel like that points per game average is where they're gonna land for this week. Yeah, we're going to go with the under, and we'll stick close to the averages, though. I'm going to give 24 points to the Texans and 19 to the Cardinals. Go ahead and lock that in. 24 to 9, or wait, what did I say? 17? 19, I meant. 24 to 19. Texans win over the Cardinals. Go ahead and lock that in. And of course, for the last game, we decided to save my Browns. Are at home against the Steelers to see if we can get revenge from that first game that took place in Pittsburgh. So this matchup, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers going to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Steelers are number 13 on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 6-3 record. They are also 2-1 on the road and second in the AFC North. Just a little bit above the Browns just because they got that win. But the Browns are number 9 on the power rankings list after that crazy win over the Ravens last week. Thank God. But the Browns have a 6-3 record. They are 4-1 at home with, and also third in the AFC North. The Steelers offense, they have 283.6 total yards per game, 180.3 passing yards per game, and 103.2 rushing yards per game. They've only scored 13 touchdowns this year. They've allowed 20 sacks, which is tied for 11th in the league, 78 quarterback rating, and 17.3 points per game. It's actually questioning me a long time on how they still have this record. I've just basically boiled it down to turnovers and Mike Tomlin. But turnover-wise, they've only got 6 interceptions and 2 fumbles, so 8 turnovers altogether on offense. Their stat leaders, we got Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, and George Pickens. Kenny Pickett, he's got 155 completions on 253 attempts, 1,616 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Najee Harris has 116 carries and 464 yards for 3 touchdowns. And Pickens has 33 catches, 566 yards, and 3 touchdowns for him. Just offense hasn't been doing anything this year, and the defensive numbers are kind of there. I mean, Steelers don't let people score this year. That's something also. But Cleveland, they have 333.2 total yards per game, 185.3 passing yards per game, and 147.9 rushing yards per game. Let's go ahead and move that around to there. They have 18 touchdowns, 8 receiving, and 10 rushing. The offensive line has allowed 28 sacks. They have the worst quarterback rating in the league at 66.9 and 11th in the league with 23.8 points per game. They have given up 12 interceptions and 7 fumbles on offense. But we got DTR that's coming in and ready to play. We'll see what he's made of. The Rook, he says that he's healthy and he says that he's ready to go. So he's going to be given the keys, and I'm fully confident in him. I feel like he can do a lot better than what he did earlier in the year when he was hurt. So he's watched a lot of things, just a whole different ball game coming out of a rookie, I feel like. But we'll go ahead and see what it entails. DTR, he's got 20 completions on 37 attempts, 130 yards and 3 interceptions. Jerome Ford has 124 carries, 532 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Amari Cooper has 41 catches, 715 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'm going with points per game, and I'm picking the Browns. I know it's biased because I am a Browns fan, but I'm just going with the points per game. Browns are 11th, and the Steelers are 26th. We almost got a whole entire possession worth of points per game on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So hopefully with this defense now where it is and DTR being able to be underneath the other quarterbacks and actually see what's going on, hopefully that did some good for him. Moving on to the defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers allow 379.7 total yards per game, 248.4 passing yards per game, and 131.2 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 17 touchdowns this year, 12 receiving and 5 rushing. They only allow 20.2 points per game. They only allow 20.2 points per game and 81.5 quarterback rating. They have 27 sacks, which is tied for 11th in the league. And turnover-wise, they have 10 interceptions and 8 fumbles. One of those fumbles has been recovered for a touchdown and 1 pick six. That's not right. They've also got a safety. The Steelers also got a safety. Flip-flop these two around. I accidentally messed that up. Hey, we make mistakes. Luckily enough that and the flip-flop on the QBR and sacks before. So there's only been 2 mess-ups this week so far. We're getting better. Moving along, let's go over to the Browns side of the defense where they are in the conversation of best defense in the league. They've allowed 242.7 total yards per game, 151.1 passing yards per game, and 91.6 rushing yards per game. They've only allowed 18 touchdowns this year, 9 receiving and 9 rushing, and are 6th in the league with 18.9 points per game allowed, 2nd in the league with 72.7 quarterback rating allowed, and tied for 5th in the league with 30 sacks. They have 9 interceptions and 6 fumbles on defense. And like I said, just flip-flop those 2 that are at the bottom with the fumble recovery and touchdown. The Steelers are the ones with the safety, not the Browns. I made a mistake. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But since the Steelers are so good on offense with their turnovers, they've got a plus 10 turnover differential. The Browns have -4. And the kickers, Chris Boswell for the Steelers is 17 for 18 on field goals. Perfect. 13 for 13 on extra points. He has 7.1 points per game from his leg. And then we got Dustin Hopkins on the Browns side. 24 for 27 on field goals and 14 for 15 on extra points. He has 9.6 points per game. So that might actually be the highest. I feel like because I think it was the Cowboys that was the other one that was pretty high. But let's go over and let's get into our last schedule. We got the Steelers that have had opponents above 500, and the Browns their opponents average above 500. And we did unfortunately take the first loss to the Steelers, that lost to the Ravens, and a late game touchdown that sealed our fate. Jackson Smith and Jigba taking the win away from us a couple of weeks ago against the Seahawks. Other than that, especially with a tough schedule that we've had this first half, I'm really kind of curious as to what this final stretch ends up looking like for the Browns. Because we have arguably one of the easiest schedules that are in the second half. We've already got the Ravens out of the way. We have yet to play any NFC North team. And that's the matchups that we have this year. So we have the Bears, Vikings, and not the Lions. What's the other one? Wow, I am spacing out. Packers. Duh. So, Bears and Packers, probably going to be an easy win, but still got to play the game. Injury-wise, Steelers, Pat Freiermuth and Quan Alexander are on injured reserve still. Montravius Adams, Keanu Neal, and Minkah Fitzpatrick have been rolled out. For the Browns, Deshaun Watson got put on IR because he's having season-ending shoulder surgery. Holy crap, is that a lot to say. But Juan Thornhill and Marquise Goodwin are rolled out. Michael Dunn and Dawan Jones are questionable. And they are backups on our offensive line. They're definitely going to be needed. ESPN has the Browns favored slightly, and Vegas has the over-under at 32.5, and the Browns are favored by 2.5 points. It's going to be a tight game, I feel like. But it's just, we're going to have a little bit less points per game. We got DTR in there. It's going to be a slow-paced game. So, yeah, I kind of really do want to take that under. But I'm not. I'm not going to take that under because that's way too low of an under. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to give the Browns 24 and the Steelers 20. Actually, we'll go right on the money for the average points per game with Cleveland and a little bit higher points per game for the Steelers. Actually, no. Take one of those field goals away. 24-17. But that still hits the over. 24-17. Lock that in. 24-17. Browns win at home over the Steelers. Hopefully that's the case. I really do. But on that note, that was the last game for the noon games in week 11 of the 2023 NFL season. Thank you guys again for stopping by. Thank you guys for watching the video. And if you hit that subscribe button, thank you. I love and appreciate all of you that are supporting me. It means so much to me. But I'm going to get heading out. Hopefully you guys have fun watching these games today. Hopefully some of my predictions were right. Be kind and respectful to others. And most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. Again, hit that like, subscribe button. Maybe even share the content with your friend. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.